What's up, guys? I'm Alex.
I'm Jason. We're the Table Monkeys, and we are back with another video. We are going to discuss the unexplainable arm break with Larry Wheels, which unfortunately is very explainable. And we're not trying to put blame in the sense that nobody was trying to hurt anybody, but This is clearly a bit of a coaching issue between Adam and Larry, since Larry was the one on the table. And when you watch it back in slow-mo, it's clear that he pulls through the guy's arm. Blame has to go somewhere. It has to go on Larry on this one, unfortunately.
Obviously, he didn't want to break his arm. I don't think anyone really wants to break your opponent's arm. But definitely the way he pulled is not the way you should be pulling with a newer guy. You're not supposed to get a workout in with a new training partner. They are just there to learn how to arm wrestle. You are not there to get a workout, so you need to teach them how to arm wrestle in the safest possible way. There is no pulling through new guys.
Yeah, and that something that we've had a lot of experience here with our club, because we've been through now at this point like hundreds of newer pullers. We get basically at least one new puller a week that we're constantly going through this process with. So what we want to do is go over how the arm break happened, and then discuss how we train newer pullers, so that hopefully this can be a learning experience for everybody, Larry included, because again, like we're saying, though the fault is on Larry, it's not anything he did intentionally, and it's something I think that he has a good opportunity to learn from, because he's a huge ambassador for the sport, and a lot of people in the last 3 years have started arm wrestling because of him.
Yep.
We don't want that to be reversed because he just broke somebody's arm, right?
Yep,
so the first thing we're gonna do is play back the video of the arm break. So if you're squeamish, you're gonna look away at this point, but we're gonna play it back in slow-mo because you can really see what's going on right as this moment happens in slow-mo. The only thing, because it would take too long to show the whole thing, to note is that if you're the new guy and I'm Larry, is he started with his shoulder square to me, and then when he felt pressure, he quickly commits his shoulders so that his shoulders are turned towards the camera, okay? And we're gonna go over this, but there's a big difference between this and this. It looks very small, and for a newer guy, he's never gonna be able to tell. Even if you go over that in practice in the beginning, he's not gonna know the difference between what this feels like and what this feels like. This guy is supposed to know what that is and supposed to be able to identify that and keep this guy safe. And unfortunately, that's not what happened in the clip we're about to show. There you go.
Instead of trying to push towards the pad, pull this way. Pull towards this.
So the first thing you can see right off the bat, as soon as they start to grip up and pull, is that the newer guy starts to rotate his shoulders towards the pin pad, right? So you can see this, his body, his two shoulders start to rotate towards the camera, and you can see his two shoulders very visibly. Now it's hard to tell from this angle, but its hand is not inside his shoulder like this. You do not see his right shoulder behind his hand. It's clearly outside of it, right? And he's also slid down his opponent's hand. So a lot more tension is going now through his elbow, right? And he's driving, obviously thinking about the pin pad, right? And what's his face? Adam comes around. He's like, okay, I don't really like that, right? Start telling him to pull back, right? So he's already in this rotated position, pushing to the side, applying tons of pressure through his elbow. And now Adam tells him to pull back. Now, if I do this, right away, I feel tension in my elbow. Right? I have a partial UCL tear, but that's not the reason why I'm feeling it in my elbow. It's just because this position with the hand outside my shoulder and I'm pulling back, dragging with all this tension, it's going through this joint.
Yeah.
Right? So
basically what's happening is with Alex is creating peg to peg pressure, but doing it in a pad to pad lane because of the way his body is turned. So it's similar to when you pin a guy and you've seen an arm break maybe happen down here where the guy starts to get away from his arm and then it gives out there because he's trying to push into the table at that very last minute. That's kind of what's happening at the top of the table here, like because of the position and everything, and his arm is just that little bit outside. And then, like Alex said, as soon as Adam gives this command to pull this way, he starts putting more tension through his elbow. And what you can clearly see in the video, in the slow-mo, is Larry's elbow move. You see Larry's elbow move that little bit, and then
bam,
the arm goes.
Right.
So
that's part of the problem, right? Is that this guy is going for the pin, he's pulling this way, which is not necessarily the bad thing. It's that Larry is now applying pressure to block it, and he's actually pulling through that position.
Yeah.
And that's why the arm break happens.
Yeah, and this is one of the main things that we avoid 100% when pulling with newer pullers. So first thing that we want to talk about is the idea of one man works, one man holds. Always the stronger or more experienced person should be holding, and the newer or weaker person should be working. Hold and work is something that I think gets misunderstood a lot and gets misperformed a lot, where the guy holding thinks he's still supposed to win. You don't come to practice to win. That's the first thing. One of the best things about this sport is how humbling it is. It teaches you how to lose, and you learn a lot more from your losses than you do your wins. So that's why people are able to progress, because they go take a beating, they lose, and they learn something from it.
Yep.
Right? So we've kind of discussed how it happened, or we've basically gone over how it happened. It was clearly rotational pressure in the wrong position. The things that Larry should have been more aware of, he should have felt this side pressure here, like the pressure pushing him towards the pad, and stop. No, don't do that. We don't want to do that. Pull towards yourself, and started to work on that. Obviously, they tried to do this pull toward yourself pressure, but because of the position the guy was already in, the back pressure that he was trying to apply was really just side pressure in an awkward position, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing that we teach people, and again, a lot of what we teach is based on Devon's Hill of arm wrestling technique. We've modeled almost all of our training and our concepts and our theories around that premise in the beginning. And what does that start with?
High hook. Post.
Top of the hill.
Top of the hill.
Riser, as Devon says, it's all about riser. So the first thing we teach people to do is rise.
Yeah.
Right? So
very safe. This is very safe to do.
Yeah.
Anyone can put their knuckles up and do a hammer curl.
Yeah. And exactly that. His first thing is teaching them knuckles up, because a lot of guys will pull back with their wrist dumped like this. And so the first thing is, no, knuckles up, pull back into me, contain with your fingers a bit. So I've got something to pull back into as well. And we get them to feel this pressure. Get a little bit of blood in their arm, get a bit of a pump. Once they're starting to feel that and they're starting to pull on that properly, then we tell them to bend their wrist, right? So now the guy's gonna bend his wrist.
But don't rotate when you bend your wrist.
Yeah.
Just keep that back pressure on.
Yeah.
Keep pulling back towards
Feel
your
my
shoulder.
fingers, feel my fingers. That's what we'll tell them. Feel my fingers, pull into my fingers, but attack my thumb so that my hand's turned over. Now, once they've got this down, we'll tell them to get inside their body a bit. So again, we're not rotating, we're teaching them to get around their hand and understand that you want your hand inside your body, not turning towards it, coming around it.
Yeah.
And we'll get people to hold this position. If you're a new puller and you've never pulled before, you're gonna burn out in this position pretty quickly. And that's what we do. We just get them to hold that position. We don't even have them go for a pin. They might start trying to pin. No, stop, it's okay, just hold that. Once it's time for them, or they get too impatient with this and they really want to go for the pin, that's the next thing that we teach, which again has nothing to do with rotating. We teach people to tilt. If you've ever heard Devon explain it, he talks about a hip throw, trying to throw your opponent. And the thing that we want people to understand is that their hip goes up into the table as they tilt towards the pin pad, constantly pulling backwards the whole time.
Yeah, and even not even thinking about the pin pad, but this corner over here.
Yes.
Because as you pull back, that's the lane that's going to put continuous pressure through my fingers.
Mm-hmm. So now that people have an understanding of a little bit of the pressure they want to apply and how to lean towards or tilt towards the pin pad, I'm going to hold, Alex is going to work. The holder, I'm going to control the amount of pressure I give this guy. So if he's a new guy, this is what it's going to look like. Okay, rise. Okay, cut. Okay, now tilt your body. Go for the pin. And look at that. I lost. I let him win.
Wow, I must be better than you.
Yeah, exactly. Now what we're gonna do, if this was a new guy, we're gonna repeat that move about 10 times. And each time I'm gonna tighten it up just a little bit. just make it a little harder for him. So a little more pressure on the rise, make it a little harder to turn my thumb in, still letting him get it, and make it a little harder for him to pin me. This is that pinning motion. That's where if I'm applying a little bit of pressure, all of a sudden it gets hard. A new guy might commit his shoulder. No, don't do that. Or a new guy might rotate. No, don't do that. But we're going slow enough and I'm applying such a minimal amount of pressure, I'm never pulling back through him, that he can stay safe or I can keep him safe, right?
Yeah.
And the point is that we will continuously work that with somebody for at least a few weeks, maybe even a month.
Just doing all those pressures the right way in the correct pattern and lane is hard enough for a newer guy. They don't need to learn anything else.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot of paths you can go down in arm wrestling. So you need a strong base, staying at the top of the hill, learning the fundamentals before you diverge to the other moves.
And one of the reasons that this is difficult for a lot of newer pullers and for practices in general is because part of what draws people to this sport is the all or nothing, the fucking 100%, the redlining of it. And in order to keep people really safe and teach them the right technique from the beginning, you kind of have to avoid that for a little bit in the beginning. So again, we'll let people work like this as they are pulling in the right position. So again, if Alex has moved down, I can make it pretty hard for him. So even at like go for the pin, and I'm going to stop you before the pin. No, go for it properly. I can stop the guy here and really burn him out and get him to start working. The next thing, if they pick this part up really quickly, the next thing we'll teach people is how to regrip. You know, a little bit of regripping and climbing my hand, getting out of my hand. Again, focusing everything on the riser, because not only is it the safest place to start, but the deeper and deeper and deeper we get into the game, and even as Devin is proving more and more now, it's where everything starts. Everything is about getting that control first. And the more, like in the beginning, this felt like rising to me. Now that feels like rising to me. Mm-hmm. Like I'm so much more in tune with that pressure that the smallest little movement I can understand and feel.
Yeah, I think this is the biggest gap too between a newer puller and an experienced puller is their strength in their rise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and unless they're maybe like they use the hammer a lot or something in their like day-to-day life has strengthened that 100%. Most people don't have this strength or even think about engaging that.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. So that's the most important thing to learn as a newer puller.
Yeah. So anyway, the point is hold and work. The guy who's holding does not pull through.
Yeah.
Ever.
And the first thing to learn is the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Rise, cup. Keep the arm inside the body. If you can nail that, that's good. Go home, stay safe, come back, learn it again.
One of the commands that we give people right off the bat that I always explain to people that I think is a good cue for people to work with in the very beginning is imagine you had a visible string from your elbow to your belly button and from your rising knuckle to your forehead. And those strings would not move, like they will not let you open up. So a guy in a first practice, if you let me maintain that, should look, if you could do it perfectly, they should look like that, you know? Is that gonna happen? No, unless the guy's like super talented, but that's a good cue for people to think, because again, people like to get out here, they don't realize it. You wanna stay inside your body, you want your knuckles high, and that's how you stay safe.
Yeah, so hope you guys learned something from that. If you did, please leave some feedback down in the comments, like, comment, subscribe,
all those things,
and monkeys out.
Peace.